Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka blenderhd, blenderhd, and it's Monday. It's Monday, so we're not going to talk about yesterday's slate, or maybe we don't. We will, maybe a little. Talk about today's slate in MLB. We're on to MLB, NBA. I don't care about it anymore. We're done. NBA yesterday. Who is going to play for the Pelicans? We don't know until like 10 minutes before lock. Right. And even that, do we believe him? Who knows? We don't believe anything on the injury report anymore. So I'm glad to have baseball back, MLB. It's been 4 days since opening day, and it's Monday. You know what we do on Mondays? It's Mondays with McCool. James McCool is here, the co-author with me of The Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports. It's a 15-hour audio masterclass that you can find at theoryofdfs.com. I see you guys in the YouTube chat. Do what you normally do. Hit that thumbs up button. Keep my apple juice cold. I got a new brand today. We ran out of Minute Maid. I got Mott's. And they come in smaller bottles. So maybe I may be done with it by the end of the show. So there. So now we're on to Mott's. I got like 6-pack of Mott's before we get more Minute Maid. I don't know. They all taste the same. I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. But hit that thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Got any general MLB DFS strategy questions? Feel free to post them in the YouTube chat, and we'll talk about it. So, James, 4 days in, how does it feel to lock hits in MLB, and then you go about your life pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, it's been just beautiful. I've been so happy.
John Murphy was scratched. The catcher for the A's. Oh, whoa! What do we do? I mean, like that's the big, it's like, okay, if you have him in your stacks or one off your global replace. I mean, I'm not rushing to my computer or anything. Like, oh, great. The seventh hitter for the A's that I didn't even stack. I don't even have him in lineup. So and then it's like, if he doesn't play, I need to, there's no so I play the crappier catcher, and then no, you don't have to do that.
And even if he's scratched, his replacement is probably cheaper. And if you stacked the A's, guess what? You just global swap to his replacement because he's cheaper, and it's not going to mess with your – it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm very happy to have it back. It's been a good, eventful couple days. We've seen Yerman Mercedes break a record that had been held since 1900 when he was 57% owned, and he hits a home run. And that was beautiful.
No one knew who this guy was, before this. No one. I mean, all I knew is that he was that first day he was 2,200, and he's a catcher, and it's like, okay, I guess I'm playing the cheap catcher that's batting fifth, as opposed to the ones that are batting eighth.
Well,
he goes 5 for 5, and then it's like, okay, well, they raised his price 200. Got to play him again, batting fifth. Then he goes hits a home run, and just as long as you play Yerman, and then Ohtani did the thing that was unthinkable, got him out.
Yeah,
he's the only pitcher to get him out.
Struck him out. It's been beautiful, man. And all I'm doing with NBA, because I'm still providing projections, I'm still providing my content, but the low stress of knowing that I'm not actually playing NBA DFS, and that I'm just not actually having to worry about the dudes who are getting flipped out, or the Orlando team that is not Orlando is playing guys that are not even bench replacement level players at this point. They're starting Chasson Randall. I don't even know who that. Did he go to college? I don't know who that is. It's terrible. So I'm happy that I won't be as back. It's been even nice to MME a little bit. And that's something that I've been kind of trying to dedicate a little bit.
You've been doing that, but you got sick of that in NBA.
Well, I'm trying to.
You're playing. See, I think we went the opposite way.
Well, no. So it is one thing that I have been wanting to do this year is I've been trying to get better at my MME process. I'm not doing it every day. I'm doing it when it's a big slate, when I can just build out my stacks and I don't have to worry so much about the extra grouping and the extra pitcher. I'm doing it on large slates, but I'm still playing single entries. I was still in the 250 yesterday. I was still in the 180 the day before. I'm still doing those things and those smaller field single entry 3 max stuff. But I want to get better at MME, and I want to get better at that because that's something that I have always like wanted to learn a little bit more. And I've always wanted to kind of like jump into that area. But before it was always just like, oh, hey, I have like a little bit of extra time today. Guess I'm going to throw $600 at the wall and see what sticks. And now I am trying to like learn a little bit better about my own process and how to incorporate my own models with it. Just because I think that it's something that I can get better at. And I always want to be improving anyway. So
are you doing that on DraftKings or FanDuel?
DraftKings.
See, I'm playing on FanDuel. That's why I said we're doing the opposite. I'm playing 100 to 150 lineups on FanDuel in their large field stuff, which their payout structure is garbage. I mean, but I look at DraftKings and the payout structures, $1 million to first and 7th place is $8 or whatever. I mean, like it's the same. To me, it's the same thing. The DraftKings fields are a little bit smaller, a little bit. It's like 70,000 to like 35,000.
Yeah.
But instead of paying $15 or whatever, you're paying $3.33 or $3.
That's the big thing. Yeah.
So like, but only because I'm experimenting with stuff on FanDuel with this multiple positional eligibility, the amount of it increases the number of combinations, but I suspect that the nut score it's more important to get closer to the nut score than it is on DraftKings. Now, the likelihood of the nut score happening is low. The nut score meaning the optimal, like the best possible lineup you could have possibly made. A lot of times it's not stacked. It's just a mess of crap. Which if you could do that, God bless you. I mean, there's like if you could figure out the exact 3 here and the exact 1 there, it's not going to happen that often. But the fact that we have guys now on FanDuel that could fit into 3 spots. DraftKings, you can only fit guys into 2 spots. They have a lot of multiple positional eligibility, but they don't have a utility position.
Right.
So it's like you have Bellinger that's first base outfielder. You have second base shortstop guys. You got second, third guys. You got third base outfield guys, which is like it makes outfield kind of, you have to get outfield right more often than not. But on FanDuel with the utility, it's like you could play Seager and Tatis. You could play Machado and Dever. You could play 2 big guys from an infield position, 2 big first base, Abreu and Freeman. Like you can't do that on DraftKings. Mm-hmm. And with the multiple positional eligibility, it makes it easier to stack, to have different stacks. But it also means that I'm more inclined to build like 4-3-1 lineups more so than 4-4 lineups, only because the guy that hits 2 home runs in a game is more likely to be in the winning GPP lineup regardless if it's stacked or not. So by playing 4-4, like you're locking yourself off to a third team. And if you're playing 4-3-1, at least you have opportunities like that. I'm just surmising this. I'm not saying what it is, but I've noticed in building 4-4 stacks, 4 of one team and 4 of the other, you could get a lot more you could get much more diversity now on FanDuel than you used to get because of MPE. I never liked playing FanDuel GPPs primarily for that fact. For like, there's only so many ways a 4-man stack and another 4-man stack and a pitcher like fit together because of the physics. Because it's like, well, they both have good first basemen. It's like, well, you got to play 1 in first and then 1 in the utility, and then you lock yourself out from now you have to it has to be the cheap shorts. Freddie Galvis has to be in this lineup because of that combination, and then you're playing you have 10 to 15 of that exact combination, and they all have Freddie Galvis, and you're just like how do I make this 4-4 without Galvis in it, while still playing these 2 first basemen and still paying up at pitcher? Like you couldn't do that before, but now because several guys are eligible at multiple spots, like you get much more different lineups. So I don't mind playing 100 to 150 now because, I played Tigers, Akil Badu. I don't even know who that guy is. He was in 2 of my lineups. I literally had no idea who he was. No idea. All I knew is that Savali was going to be chalky, and I'm like, I'll play a couple of Tigers. I'll put Tigers 6%. Give me 6% Tigers wherever the hell it fits, and Akil Baddoo ended up in 2 of my lineup, 9th hitter. I would normally pick him, but he hit a home run, and I'm like, okay, who's this creative player? Then I go to lineup HQ and I go, I have 2 of them. Oh, isn't that nice? Of course, not paired with the right stuff, but I on DraftKings, because you're probably stacking 5 and there's no utility spot. The differentiation there is the pitcher. Like, you get more combinations because you have to play 2 pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
More than that, more than on FanDuel, you only play 1. So that increases your diversity in your sets, but it's still how many? If you're playing 5 threes, like I obviously I haven't done the math, but on like this 7-game slate tonight, if you take out the pitchers, I think you may be able to make more 4-4 lineups on FanDuel than you can 5-3 lineups on DraftKings.
Yeah, I'd almost guarantee you can. Like, and I haven't done the math either, but just considering the fact that you only need 1 pitcher and you have the extra utility spot with the MPE, I'm sure that the stacking capabilities on FanDuel, you can make a lot more combinations. And the thing that you mentioned about FanDuel having its large GPP be bigger but also be cheaper, that's much nicer for experimenting. And I know a lot of guys that go over and play on FanDuel simply because their large field GPP, their big contest is cheaper, and it's just nicer to MME. There's less risk. And even the other day on Saturday, I think it was, the main DraftKings GPP was $18. And that's a pretty good investment if you're going to MME that, whereas
that's the main reason why in the past, like that $15 contest, I play 50 lineups.
Yeah. And that's what I'm doing.
People are like, why don't you play 150? It's like, I'm not going to win. I have to, it's high risk to have to win first place in a GPP like once every. If I max that, you have to win like once every 2 or 3 months minimum just to break even.
Yeah.
So it's like, why don't I just single entry there, or for the 20 max? I mean, yeah, that's like a 3 to 5K first place prize.
Yeah.
But on FanDuel, the structure at the top is god awful. I mean, it's worse than DraftKings is bad, but FanDuel, it's like 40,000 to first, 10,000 to second, and like 8th place is $300. I mean, like it's bad. Yeah. But if I'm just looking to get my feet wet by like, okay, I'm just gonna play 100 to 150 lineups. I get used to the players, get used to everything, to the lineup constructions and just whatever. I mean, like today, I'm playing 100 lineups on FanDuel for $3. That's $300.
Yeah. And that'll be the same as me playing what? 10 lineups? No. 20 over,
lineups, right.
Yeah, 20 lineups over on DraftKings. And you get 5 times
fine, which is still fine.
No, yeah, absolutely.
But with 20 lineups, if you're gonna play and you're looking for diversification, like you're gonna have to make tough choices.
You are.
Which I'm used to doing. Hey, when I would play 40, 50 lineups, I would same exact thing. I guess I'm just fading a game. I'm just fading a stat. I'm just Xing out a team. I'm not playing this pitcher. Just it doesn't matter. Just chalk pitcher. No, I'm just not playing him in any of my 50 lineup. But I have to get myself to you have to make the tough choices. But in the beginning of the season, I don't want to make tough choices. I'm not sure yet. So it's kind of like, can I just get the constructions right? Especially in the beginning of the season, you're going to get probably more likely than not new money into the ecosystem. And I think just on construction alone, I have an edge in large field. I mean, you're going to have that the whole season regardless. But I think the edge in the beginning of the season is the highest, and it tails off towards the end of the season. We're going to see come September. Once NFL starts in the beginning of September, MLB contests are going to go, it's going to shrink away, and it's going to be mostly like regulars playing. So in the beginning of the season, I don't mind. Dude, I'll just play. Yesterday on FanDuel, I played nearly every stack. I played 150 lineups and just give me 20% Baltimore. Or that was the team that I was over the field on. Of course, did very well. Didn't pair them well with the other side. And I just I looked at my exposure and I'm like, I guess I guess I could win in a lot of ways. I'm playing I'm playing at least one of like everything, pretty much. I'm playing like half the pitchers on the slate, but I got the constructions right. So hope for the best. I mean, I was at first for a while until Baltimore got out there after 3 innings, and then everyone else caught up. So
yeah.
So I ended up with what? The best lineup was like 58th place or something.
Which is a can of sardines or something like that.
Right. You look and you're like, oh, I put in 400 and whatever, $500 and got back like 420. So it's like I lost $70 on the day, even though I was in first for like 2 hours of the slate.
Yeah. It's nice to spread things out, and you and I are a lot different with that too. Like I take a lot of risk, and like I said, on core slates, one of the reasons why I like to try to MME and do that kind of stuff on core slates, because it is so condensed with the ownerships on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Core slates, like the Dodgers were touching 60% ownership in GPPs. 60% ownership in GPPs. That is insane for baseball. But it makes my decisions really, really easy. Because at that point, like, all I have to do is just say, okay, I'm not playing anybody from cores, and then I can do whatever else I want. It doesn't even matter what else I do, because I'm fading the 60% on Dodgers and then probably another like 5 to 7% of whatever the Rockies were owned. And now, there's 30% of the field left that I'm competing against if cores fails. So I like slates where there's going to be very condensed ownership. I had mentioned before that I really like smaller slates, like anything under 4 games. I really, really like, because it's really easy to just know, if it's 4-game slate and there's one pitcher that is good and, 7 other pitchers that are not so great, it's really easy to just know where your leverage points are. So I like doing that kind of stuff when it is a shorter slate or when it is a core slate. Slates like tonight, where we're not going to have cores, it's going to be a little bit more interesting. I don't know if I'm actually going to jump into building multiple lineups tonight, because unless something, I know that DeGrom is on the slate, but I'm not going to stack against DeGrom, and I'm probably not going to fade DeGrom. So like, I don't know where my leverage is on a slate like that. So tonight I'm much more inclined to play 1 to 3 lineups, play my normal 3 max stuff, and find my leverage points in a little bit more of a nuanced way, rather than just fading out an entire game or an entire pitcher.
Yeah, when it comes to leverage in MLB, I mean, we're getting some of these questions in the RotoGrinders Discord. I'm mostly in the back chat, by the way. With calculating leverage, like the blunt way to do so, which we explain in the course, is to just multiply the ownerships of the players together. And that's your uniqueness. So if you have a 50% owned player plus a 15% owned player, the likelihood of those two being together is 25%, right? And another 50% owned player, that'll make it 12.5%. So you go in and then you multiply it by the field size, and you go, if it's less than 1, that's supposed to be like the estimate of how many lineups are in that contest that look like that. Now, obviously, if it's over 1, that means there's going to be it's going to be duplicated, right? The thing is that calculation does not take into account. I mean, it's a blunt tool as it is, because we have projected ownership, so that's not the actual ownership, but it does not take into account correlation.
Right. Stacking.
Now, in a sport like NBA, where the correlations are weak, which means people are less likely to correlate anything. So if you're trying to figure out, okay, well, Steph Curry and Trae Young last night, they're both playing in the same game. If one's 50% owned, the other's 50% owned, well, you can say, well, 25% of the lineups probably have both. I'm going to guess that it's slightly more than that it's not 25%, it's more like 30%. Because there's going to be more people are likely to play, since they're in the same game, them together, right? But in NBA, you don't have to. So, like, how much of the field is doing that? Not as much. In MLB, it's like all correlation all the time, right? So if you look at the Dodgers, whatever, at cores, and you see, if you saw, let's say, I'm just making the numbers up, 50% ownership on Betts, 50% ownership on Seager, and 50% ownership on Bellinger, based on that, the calculation that you do to estimate whatever, That would be 12.5%. That you go like 50% times 50% is 25%. Times 50% is 12.5%. You go, okay, how many lineups in this contest have all three in the same lineup? 12.5%. I guarantee you it's like 3 times that. Because you're more likely, if Seager's in the lineup, you're more likely to have Bellinger and Betts and Matt Muncy and Will Smith, and like, because people are stacking. You're going to get 3s, 4s, 5s together. So when you do, when you look at a lineup and you go, well, can I play a Dodgers stack? Well, if you did that calculation, you'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to play on DraftKings. I'm going to play 5 Dodgers. Let's say they all were 50% owned. Let's just say. I mean, you're going to get, only like 1% of the lineups have this. Like, no, 15% of the lineups have, because people are playing Dodger stacks. So when I look for leverage situations in baseball, I'm not calculating that way. I'm looking at the aggregate stack ownership to begin with. Right? I'm looking like you could play the chalk Dodgers or whatever, chalk Yankees the other day. Now, if you play the 8th hitter in that stack, like that gives you more that gives you more leverage than playing like the chalk 5-man or 4-man on FanDuel. Or if you're going to play the 3-man, if you're going to play a 5-3 on DraftKings, if that 3-man, if you're playing the 3-man of Bellinger, Betts, Seager or something like that, like just understand that 3-man that combination is going to be in a lot of lineups. So your 5-man opposite that needs to be even lower owned than I'm going to play a 7% owned stack. It's like the amount of combinations that could happen. Like you're gonna run into the same line. Yeah, I mean, it sounds odd to say in baseball, but you're gonna run into the same exact lineup right there. If you have the 2 chalk pitchers, the second most owned stack with some cheap guy, and the 3 most owned players on the 5-man stack that's most owned, like that's not enough. You do the calculation and you go, oh, it's under 1. I should be fine, and you're not, because you almost have to take teams like together as a number, rather than like what's the stack's going to be 4% owned and 12% owned. Then you combine that, and then you could look at the pitchers and then do something like that. Then you may have a one-off. So it's not as much. I mean, even though these types of calculations are blunt, like this is just to give you a sense of if you have enough leverage, and it's much better than the cumulative ownership, the sum of all of them. But I've gotten a lot of questions. Oh, well, I could play the 4 chalk guys and then this other 4-man stack on FanDuel and the chalk pitcher, and based on it's a 71,000 person contest and I still come in under 1, and I go, you're not good enough. Like that's the 4-4 that you're playing is like the top 2, like dude, you're literally going to run into like 27 duplicates of this lineup, and you're like, how is that possible? It's under 1, like, because it spends all the salary. It has the chalk pitcher. It has the 4 chalkiest players of the chalk stack, and the second most expensive, the second popular stack. Yes, it had. Yeah, you're right. It has like the 7th hitter, but that's the only way to fit that. That if you're gonna if you went into an optimizer and literally said, give me a 4-4 of these 2 teams, that would be the number 1, like by projection, by default, even though it has the 7th hitter in it, because in order to have 35,000 in salary, that's the only way you could do it. So like you have to grasp that you're not just owning players, you're owning like stack combinations, and these stack combinations with half the field stacking. Now half the field doesn't stack, so those in the long run, those people are just donating money. So if they win, they win. There's half the lineups in the contest, whatever. Don't worry about them. But for the most part, when you James, when you calculate leverage, like you're not just going like one by one down the thing, going player by player by player by player. I mean, you're taking into account that stacks are going to be owned, and the players don't necessarily matter as much.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you start with I tell most people start with pitcher and then move on to their stacks and then figure it out from there. In GPPs, you can do it backwards where you start with your stacks and then you go to your pitcher. But a lot of the time, especially when you have a situation like Coors and you have a team that is good and you know that they're going to be high owned, you can automatically assume that if a team like the Dodgers are going to be in Coors and each individual player of like the top 5 owned players is going to be somewhere between 40 and 50% owned, you can probably just say that stack's going to be 25% or so of the lineups, right? Like it's just you're not multiplying against each other because you can't think in terms of individual players in MLB. You can't do it in NHL either. In these event-oriented stacking sports,
or League of Legends, even better.
or yeah, League of Legends, like you pretty much you look at like top esports when they're going to be a favorite, and you just know like you're not looking at Jackie Love and you're not looking at Zuhao and like you're not looking at those guys individually and saying, oh, Jackie Love's going to be 70% owned. Like no, the top esports is going to be 70% owned, and so like that's just going to be the way that it is. Same thing with any stacking sport. You look at the teams individually. And that goes, even farther beyond the idea of ownership and leverage. You should be looking at the teams and the team statistics as a combined effort rather than just individual players. Looking at an individual player projection is great if you have a 1v1 decision or if you have like you're trying to decide who you want in your stacks or whatever. But for the most part, like you don't even care about individual players. You care about trying to stack them. You care about the correlation between the players and you try to fit them with the best pitchers possible. And if you have the top overall owned pitcher that is like underpriced, like we know that he's underpriced. He's only 7K on FanDuel or something like that. And you have the top overall owned pitcher with the top overall all owned stack. If you don't get super weird with that secondary stack, like what are you even doing? Not only are you probably going to be duped if you take all of the top owned pieces, but also how do you expect to actually win a contest of 71,000 people if you have no relative value over the rest of the field? Like if you have no relative leverage over anybody else because you took the top owned pitcher and you played safe and you took the top owned stack and then you took the second top owned stack, how do you expect to pass people? If you get everything, it was the other night we were talking at the beginning of this with like Yerman Mercedes and the Dodgers stacks and everything like that. That night, there were people who had Dodgers stacks with Yerman Mercedes and with the good pitchers who didn't cash. And it's because like you got everything else that everybody else got, so you didn't pass anybody. Like you were all just moving up together as this conglomerate of a 50% owned basically train. You can't pass anybody. So there's so much more equity and there's so much more leverage and there's so much more upside to avoiding at least the top owned pitcher or the top owned stack. So you can go in and you can calculate the leverage that you might need if you take the top overall owned stack or the top overall owned pitcher or both. But even then, if you're not really weird with that second stack, you're probably not passing that many people, and you're probably not actually giving yourself a chance to win large field GPPs.
That's why my goal is to pair chalk with nuts with weird stuff. I mean, that's the vomit stack strategy. I mean, like, yeah, great. I have the 5-man vomit stack, but it's paired with the chalk 3-man. I mean, like, and the chalk pitcher, one of the chalk. I mean, like, it's the combination. We talk about it all the time. Lineups, not players. So, like, if you take a look at FanDuel the past, like yesterday, like I played a ton of Yankees. They didn't get there. But I mean, I played the Yankees with the Orioles, with the Tigers, with the Reds, I mean, I look at my FanDuel 4-4s, and Baltimore was like, I have Rio Ruiz at like 0.8% owned. Cedric Mullins put up like 37 points at like 1.2% owned on FanDuel. It's like, do I care that I have chalk Aaron Judge in that? No, I don't. Do I care about having chalk who was chalk yesterday pitcher? Savali was chalk. Someone other than Savali.
With, Ian Anderson.
Oh, Ian Anderson. Yeah, I don't mind that. Like I'm looking at my stack ownership, and it's like the weird stacks that I had I don't mind having the Red Sox in my red stacks that when Castellanos is 4% owned, right? Like I'm trying to pair that together. What I don't want is pairing the 4-4s of like the top 2 owned stacks.
Mhm.
Like I like yesterday, I tried to avoid having Yankees Red Sox types of lineups, right? Because they were like the first and second. Toronto was actually much lower than I thought. But I had a bunch of like Toronto, Baltimore. It's like, okay, that kind of goes together. So I'm trying to weave those types of lineups. And in the lineups, hey, if I wanted to have a Yankees Red Sox type of 4-4, then that's a lineup that I have, some 2% owned pitcher, right? Jeff Hoffman, right? He came out of the blue, right? He's no longer in Colorado. Apparently, he can pitch now.
Yeah, well, here in Colorado, we don't develop pitchers. We just make money off concessions. So, yeah, it's nice to be able to look at things that way and objectively. And isn't it just so much nicer than trying to put together a parlay of NBA players? Isn't it just so much nicer than like that's the thing? And one of the things I was mentioning before the show started, I usually make it about 2 weeks into MLB season before I start having to have the conversation of should we be stacking an MLB? Because somebody wins a GPP with a 3 stack and it's just like, oh, that's the new thing. It's not the new thing. It's never the new thing. The math says that it's not the new thing. And anybody telling you this new thing is just don't listen to that. Stacking works because the correlations are so good and you're making less decisions and you're having to get less right. And that's the beauty of what stacking is. It's the reason why we stack in baseball, in NHL, in League of Legends, in NFL, like all of these things. The less decisions you have to get right, the easier it is to actually win when the things that you got right go really, really well. Like with Baltimore yesterday, or like with Toronto, or like with Cleveland. Like those teams, you could have taken those teams at really, really low ownership and stacked them. Like you didn't have to go home run hunting. You could have just stacked those teams, and that was a great decision to pair with either the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Reds. I thought the Reds were going to be a little bit higher owned, and I paired them with I don't know, so with the Braves yesterday. I had Reds Braves, and the Braves got shut out, but I thought the Reds were going to be higher owned, so I tried to pair them together. But see, I only made 2 decisions, 1 decision, 2 decisions, and that's all that I had to do. I didn't have to go home run hunting, and just don't go home run hunting. That's my rant here. I think.
But you're going to see people do it, and as long as they're aligned, what you're aiming to do in DFS is build lineups that have a higher expectation than what they'll be owned. That's it. Like this lineup's probability of winning is X, and it's higher than other lineups in the contest. That's it. That's all DFS is in GPPs. If you have a lineup that has a 1% chance of winning, and then no lineup has 1% chance of winning a large field GPP, but let's use real numbers rather than 0.008, whatever. So let's say your lineup has 2% chance of winning, and this other lineup that you see has a 1% chance of winning. You want to play the lineup with a 2% chance of winning versus the 1% chance. Doesn't mean the other lineup can't possibly win, but it wins twice as less as your lineup, right? A lineup that could only win 0.5% of the time. Well, now you're 4 times a favorite over that lineup. Like if you could play more of those 2% chance to win lineups, you could play 100 of them, and someone else is playing onesies and twosies of the 0.001%. Like it doesn't mean those lineups can't win. And understand, in a large field contest with 70,000 entries, 30 to 40,000 of them are going to be lineups that you look at and you go, seems like someone just took their head and banged it against the keyboard. And one of them could win. Sure. Yeah. Right. You're going to see 2-2-2-1-1 lineups. You're going to see, 4X lineups. You're going to see a lot of stuff. Now, in the smaller slates, the correlation isn't as important because, it's still important, but it's less necessary because there's less chances of one team like just going absolutely nuclear on a slate. So I can get it on it's 5-game slate, 4-game slate, 3-game slate. Now you can take advantage of people that are stacking because there's only so many combinations that way. So the only way to get different is by like sort of not stacking. So I can understand like 5 games and below to be playing like 4-2 lineups or four like on DraftKings playing like 3-3-2 type of stuff. On FanDuel, maybe playing 4X even. So you're playing a 4-man stack and then 4 one-offs on smaller slates. But when we had, once you start opening the number of teams, it's like there's going to be one team that you're going to need, more likely than not. There may be a second team, and if there's 2 of them, you have one team. If you have a team that put up 12 runs, another team puts up 10 runs, another team puts up 9 runs with 4 home runs, most likely the winning lineup is going to be some type of 5-2-1, 5-3, 4-4, 4-3, some type of double stacked lineup to some extent. That's going to happen more often than not, but not every slate. And even in those instances where you have teams like that, one guy may put up 3 home runs and some weird lineup that has like 3, some, I closed my eyes and tried to home run hunt, maybe wins. And you look at the lineup, you go, that's not a repeatable process that you could possibly have. So if you want to get lucky on one slate, go ahead and do it. But for the most part, on DraftKings, they're on a slate of 7 games like we have tonight, even 5, even 5, 6, there's really, once it gets down to maybe 3 or 4, I think about it. But you're not going to find me with not a 5-man stack on DraftKings. Just like on FanDuel, you're not going to find me without a 4. You're not going to it's going to be 4-4 or 4-3-1. There's almost no other combinations that I'd possibly make on FanDuel. And on DraftKings, you could get away with 5-1-1-1. That's fine as long as your main stack is 5. But you could also do 4-3-1 on DraftKings. Okay, that's doable. But I'm more likely to have the team that puts up a ton of runs, have 5 of them. You don't have a utility spot on DraftKings, so you don't have to get the nuts. You're looking at, a guy put up 2 home runs, but he's 1% owned and no one played that stack. And it's the likelihood of him being in the winning lineup is actually going to be quite low.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to look at, the guy that has 37 points on DraftKings isn't even in the winning lineup. Because the only way that whoever has that stack at almost no percent has to be perfect in all the other spots also in order to get their lineup all the way to the top. And then someone that has that guy as the one-off in a 4-3-1 or something, or a 5-1-1-1, they also have to get everything. But he's only 1% owned. So there's so few lineups that could fit that type of combination that you could be less worried about. Now, if that guy's obviously 26% owned, you're dead, right? Right? If it's JD Martinez against the lefty in Fenway, right, and he puts up 40 points or something, you're dead. Do you have Red Sox stacks? No. Do you have him as a one-off? No, you're dead. Just don't even bother, right? It's 25% owned, but these 1% owned dudes, screw them. If they're most likely not going to beat you, even in large field GPPs on DraftKings and FanDuel. But I think it's more likely they beat you on FanDuel now.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the MPE and the utility spot than they do on DraftKings. DraftKings is weird. I think DraftKings, you can win a GPP with a 0.
And people frequently do.
Right.
Relatively frequently, relative to other sports. You can legitimately win with 0s, and you can legitimately punt an entire position and have it get you 4-6 points or something like that. But if that's the only way to stack the Yankees and the Red Sox, and the Red Sox are only 3% owned for whatever reason, and they both put up 12 runs, but the dude that you absolutely punted only gets 6 points, but he was the only way for you to get those 2 stacks, that you're still going to win.
You played the $5,300 pitcher that no one wanted to play at 1.8% ownership, and he puts up 26. And it's that's the only that's the only way you could get that combination of points.
Yeah.
And you have 3 points in your shortstop spot, and you're I could still win that way.
Mm-hmm.
You can still do that on FanDuel somewhat, but I think much less so because FanDuel, of the utility position.
It's harder on FanDuel, I think, and one of the reasons why I like playing on DraftKings is because you do have to get both pitchers right. And I think that puts it puts a strain on the process of actually creating the projections, because projections do matter for pitchers. Like you have to be good at projecting pitchers in order to find success, and especially so on DraftKings, because you have to take 2 of them, and generally you have to make some sort of a weird decision with your SB2. Like sometimes it's just a layup, right? Like sometimes you have DeGrom, who is 11K, and then you have like Vince Velasquez against who's terrible this year, Cleveland or something like that. Like some high upside strikeout pitcher is only 6K, and sometimes it's a layup. But a lot of the time, I think on DraftKings, one of the reasons why I like building there is because a lot of people are not super great at projecting pitchers, and a lot of people don't take advantage enough of the secondary pitchers that people latch onto. If somebody like Zach Eflin is going to be really, really popular at $7,500 on DraftKings, that's a great opportunity in GPPs to be able to attack him. Whereas on FanDuel, he's only going to be like 11% owned because people don't need to use him. So I like that aspect of DraftKings, where the roster construction is allowing you to take advantage of people's mistakes, I think, a little bit more often, because you're right. FanDuel, especially now that there's MPE, you're going to be able to build some kick-ass lineups.
That's why I leave money on the yesterday I played 150 lineups. More than 100 of them left at least 1,500 on the table.
I believe that. Because
the only way to play those, I went in, I'm like, I want to play a ton of Baltimore. I want to play a bunch of the Tigers. And the chalk was like the Yankees and the Red Sox, but like you couldn't even spend your money. Like the pricing was so soft that you could have played like Eflin or Savali or one of those, higher priced, but Zach Davis, he was chalky. And then still play like a Yankee stack plus a 4, like I set the minimum to like 34,000, which is 1,000 on the table. And I'm like, I'm getting like 3% Baltimore. And I'm like, dude, I want to get 20% Baltimore. And it's like, and then I looked and I'm like, I sort by salary. And I'm like, these lineups that had 34,000, like still had Yanks, still had shot. I mean, still was like, I'm still playing like Aaron Judge and JD Martinez in these lineups. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, the only way to get these stacks is by not spending that much money. And there weren't like stud pitchers to pay up for. And if you're going to pay up for a one-off, like it's the chalk people anyway. So it's like at this point, the salary cap doesn't matter anymore. It's right. Just like I need the correlation more than I need the projection. And the lineups didn't even project badly. I mean, like the top 4-4 optimal with like Yankees, Red Sox type of thing was like 122. And my lineups that left 4,000 on the table projected as like 109. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm sure I'm giving up 13 points in median, but I'm giving it all in the hitters, right? It's basically all the projection I'm giving. It's because I don't have Yankees in this lineup. That's where all the points are. It's not like I'm giving it up at pitcher. So just like if the Yankees don't do anything, like these lineups are exactly the same, mm-hmm. right? If Aaron Judge puts up a 0 instead of an 11, that's it. I mean, literally the lineups are exactly the same, even though one's leaving 4,000 on the table. So give it to me. Give me Baltimore plus Minnesota. I'm giving all these combinations, but you know how many people are just like, I can't play a lineup that leaves 4,000 on the table. Like, good. I will, right? Well, that just means that the chalk is even more chalky. And I go in there and I see I had lineups that like my highest owned player in the lineup was 7% owned on FanDuel. Like that's the highest owned player. And it's like, well, what else am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to just play the Yankees because it's too much leverage? It's like, no, I'm betting on teams.
Yeah, and I don't think that you can over leverage yourself in MLB. I don't think so. Do you think so?
I think at pitcher you can.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Like if you're going to do a 5-3 or something or a 4-4, like you're going to do one of those locked lineups. Because obviously when you play with a one-off, when you play 5-2-1 or 4-3-1, you have that 1-1-off that you could go up and like that jigsaw puzzle's easy to fit around. But if you're going to play a locked lineup like a 5-3 or a 4-4, if you're going to play a 4-4 of like 1%, play the chalk pitcher. Just play the highest rejected pitcher.
Sure.
Like don't get to me that the pitcher is the least variant position in MLB DFS. So like if I'm going to on FanDuel, if on DraftKings, I'm going to play 5-3. and my 5-man stack is 2% owned, and my 3-man stack is only 5% owned, I'm just going to play the 2 chalk pitchers. I mean, like, just give me the highest projected combination of those 2 pitchers. Like, to me, that's what I would do. To me, that would be like too much. If you then also went to the 1% owned pitchers, like, what was the point of that? Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, and I can agree with that. I meant that in terms of like the stacks that you make. Like, but you're right. I should clarify that, because if you're gonna have teams that are, less than 10% owned in terms of your stacks, that like I said, you still have to follow projections on pitchers. So I think that still matters. But
Right,
when it comes
play
to
the best projected pitchers, I mean,
yeah,
that's exactly what I'm saying. And it doesn't matter what their ownership is anymore, because you're good. Your stacks are barely owned.
Yeah. And that's what I mean by it. Is like you can play whatever stacks you want. You can. It does not matter what the ownership is on your stacks. Just because the more leverage that you have, the less people you are competing against with your stacks. And because everybody has a floor of 0, it's not like the medians matter. The medians don't matter at all when it comes to MLB. Outside of your pitchers, like, you should be trying to get the best pitchers that you can possibly be, and surrounding them with plenty of leverage and plenty of upside. And that's all that really MLB is, man. And when people are stacking up, like, I talk a lot of crap on Julio Teheran, but whenever people take Julio Teheran, whenever he's on a slate, it's like, all right, I have to play this slate like a champion, because people are just going to default to this guy that's terrible. People play these terrible pitchers because they are expensive and because they're slightly better than the other pitchers that are on the slate. When, like, Julio Teheran, who's a $6,500 pitcher, is priced up to $9,800 because it's the 5th starters. It's that day. It's, it's Thursday or whatever. But he should be 6,700, and the pitchers that are 6,700 should be like 5,900. It's like, I'm just going to take the 6,700 pitchers and just stack up all of the rest of the chalk because you guys are making a bad decision on Julio Teheran. The leverage is just so easy to find in MLB. I don't think.
But sometimes you find it and it doesn't. I was stacked against Joe Musgrove and that didn't work.
Oh no, that never works. It
works. It just didn't work at 8,600 from Musgrove.
No, but it didn't work because you did it. If you don't take Musgrove, he's going to do well. But if you take him, he's going to do badly.
Well, the Diamondbacks are horrible. Maybe that's the reason.
They are also horrible. Yeah, I mean, the other day I stacked against who was it? I think that I stacked the Rangers against somebody bad. They didn't do well. It was 2 nights ago. Whatever. Anyway, I stacked the Rangers, not because I think they're good, but because, like, it gave me a lot of leverage. The pitcher was supposed to be 50% owned. I'm just going to stack against him if he's not an ace. So that's all that I had to do. And that's the beauty of MLB.
Right. And then you play this over the long. The whole thing is the long run.
Yeah.
You're going to be wrong most of the time. Most of the time you will be wrong. But when you're right, how much do you make when you're right?
A statement that I think is important to make during MLB and during NBA as well, but no MLB slate, like, you shouldn't be playing MLB slates as if they are one slate. You should be playing the MLB year as if it is one slate.
Right. That's
the idea. Like, each MLB slate is just one at bat out of the entire season as one game. Just play it that way. And like, don't think of individual slates. Just look at it as one at bat. It's like, okay, I struck out last night, we're back up. Struck out last night, we're back up. Eventually hit a home run, take your ROI, and then, that's all you have to do. You just try to win the game over the course of the season. So just don't look at slates individually. These daily slates, people look at them and they're like, oh, well, I'm getting frustrated because I'm not winning. And it's like,
it's 4 days. What are you
it's been 4 days.
It's 4 days.
And other people will look at what is working over the first 4 days and be like, oh, well, I have to copy that. And it's like, dude, it's been
same thing. It's been 4 days, dude. You could go a month and I'll be like, it's a month. It's been 30 days.
Yeah.
Right? What are you talking about? Come back to me. Come back to me after 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. If I'm still laboring after 3 months, all right, I need to figure something out. But like, after a couple days, after a month, I don't care, dude. It's just a couple slates, just a couple of bats.
Right. So you could find me and James talking about a lot of this type of stuff: correlation, construction, leverage, And the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports is a 15-hour audio masterclass. You will learn all the fundamental concepts of expert-level DFS gameplay that will completely revolutionize your process and put yourself on the same footing as the pros. The Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, how to think like a professional DFS player. 15 hours of me and James in your pocket. It's a lot of stuff that we talk about on the pregame show, but in a much more condensed, streamlined, structured way that you can reference. And at any time, this will be 5 years from now. DFS will still be around. This will still apply. So go to theoryofdfs.com for that. But 4 days sample size in baseball is nothing, right? So if you lost all 4 days, that doesn't mean it. Okay, great. Has Stan hit a home run yet this year? Stanton.
Oh, Stanton. No.
Actually, that means he get out 4 days. That means he'll never hit a home run ever again. Come on.
Well, to be fair, I'll just let everybody know when I have him, because he is guaranteed to have the bases loaded and to have a warning track fly out. If I have him. Guaranteed.
No, strikeout. That's worse.
I don't think that's worse. I think that seeing the ball get hit on the little MLB app and seeing it be an outs and then seeing flies out sharply.
No, you just see in play out. You don't know it's a warning track shot.
No, I watch it and I see.
Don't watch it. That's your problem. Don't watch it.
And then I see the description of flies out sharply to left field or whatever, and I just tilt my face off. Like the strikeout, I don't care. At least he didn't make contact. But if he makes contact, I assume that every time that Stanton makes contact with the baseball actually evaporates and ends up somewhere else in the universe miles away. Because that man hits balls with more power than that of the sun.
How about Ohtani yesterday?
Ohtani's incredible. I bought both of his rookie cards. Like the instant that he hit that home run, I went to eBay and bought both of his rookie cards because I love him.
If he doesn't get injured,
he's MVP.
No, if he doesn't get injured, he may be the greatest baseball player ever.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There's nobody that is built the way that Shohei Ohtani is, and I wish that there was more of his quality of athlete in the league, because it would. Can you imagine like if Tatis Jr. could throw 100 miles an hour on the mound? That's Shohei Ohtani. Like, and
but that's the point that I'm making. It's just like, imagine he plays the next 14 years because he's 26, and he puts up what? Even though wins don't matter, puts up 150 wins, wins the Cy Young twice, hits 500 home runs. Like how do you say that? Like there's no who could possibly? That's just unheard. Babe Ruth.
The beauty of it is that he is going to play really, really well for the next 10 years, right? And he's going to win 2 Cy Youngs, and there's going to be, he's going to be with Mike Trout, and both of them are going to have 5 MVPs between the two of them. Angels have 0 playoff wins, not a single one. Because the Angels are not allowed to get to the playoffs and win games, and it's a travesty.
Yeah, you know what's going to end up happening? He's going to do all of that, and people, just like because MLB doesn't know how to market, people will still not know who these people are.
It's incredible.
Right, well, Mike Trout's the best player in baseball, and he can probably walk down the street and no one knows who he is.
Right, exactly. And the thing about that is because nobody will know who he is because there are blackout restrictions, and you can't actually watch the Angels in California. It's disgusting. I don't know how the MLB is so bad at this. Like, just cut a deal with a streaming service, put all of the baseball games on Hulu or on whatever. I don't care. Just put it on some streaming service and get paid billions of dollars to do it, and there you go. Like, why the blackout restrictions?
Why you can't put the clips on social media without getting the copyright violation?
Oh God, remember when Pitching Ninja got put into Twitter jail and got his account deleted because MLB came after him? That was incredible. He's like the best marketing agent that the MLB has. It's insane. These old people that don't understand how to actually make money, making decent money. Because let's face it, the baseball player owners, like they make plenty of money. These teams make plenty of money, but can you imagine how much more money they would be making if they didn't suck so bad at marketing their sport?
Right. They don't market their players at all. It's like you take a look around the league and you go, okay, name your favorite baseball player. Like it's to a casual person, they'd be like, I don't even know who's playing.
Right.
Who?
Yeah. If you go to a bar and you talk to somebody who doesn't watch baseball, they have no idea who Mike Trout is. Mike Trout's not like, that's not a sexy name. Everybody knows who Patrick Mahomes is. Everybody knows Tom Brady. Nobody knows Mike Trout. Nobody knows Shohei Ohtani.
There's probably 30 basketball players that people know before their first baseball player.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Which is it's gross. I very much like MLB and I actually enjoy like going to MLB games, but it just sucks that you can't have conversations about it in like casual passing because people don't know who the players are. And I kind of get the same vibes as like esports. There's a reason why I say that esports is going to be bigger than baseball in 5 years. And it's not because I think that esports is more entertaining to watch, even though it is. It's just that like it has a global reach, whereas baseball doesn't even have a state to state reach in the United States. Like you can't even watch, if you try to watch a Chicago Cubs game in Milwaukee, you can't.
I can't watch. Here in Louisville, I can't watch on MLB TV. I can't watch the Reds.
How does it make sense? How does that
The
make
Reds
sense?
are in Ohio, but they're technically Louisville is in because that's the closest MLB team. Like no. Anytime I go to MLB.TV, it gives me the radio. I could listen to the audio, but not the video. And it's like I don't even care about the Reds. What? This is stupid. Only because their rights are Bally Sports, which is weird for me to say. It's not Fox Sports anymore. I have to put it on my cable, Bally Sports Ohio, in order to watch the Reds. Even though I have that, let me at least log in with that on MLB TV.
Right.
So I can't even do that. So it's like, do they not realize that it's baseball? It's not the most attractive sport to most people. That what I'm going to do is not go, oh, that means I need to get Bally Sports. No, it just means I'm just going to shut it off completely and just not watch the Reds.
Right. No, nobody's going to be buying multiple extra channels to watch all these different teams. It does. Only the most hardcore fans are going to do that. I am not even sure that people would do that for NFL. I don't think that people would like would you buy an extra channel to watch the Jets?
Well, you're talking to me. I wouldn't buy an extra channel to watch any sport.
If you liked sports, like if you liked watching sports.
Or like the Giants, right? Because I was a Giants fan, but
sure.
Oh, do I need to get that? No, then I just don't do it.
Yeah. And I don't think many people would. I don't think that many people would go out of their way to buy an extra channel to watch a team that is not quote unquote in their jurisdiction. It's the worst marketing scheme that you could possibly have for anything that actually wants to make money. I just think that every baseball owner and like Rob Manfred, I think they hate baseball and then they just don't want it to succeed. It's bad.
But we got baseball today, right?
Yeah.
We got baseball for the next 6 months.
Beautiful.
Right? Beautiful. Better than NBA. At least DFS wise. So James can be found at paydirt_DFS and at paydirt.ghost.io because you still didn't get a domain name.
I still have not gotten a domain name, but no, you can find me at paydirt_DFS on the Twitter machines. You can find all of my work at paydirt.ghost.io. Definitely go over there, check that out. I love the sheets. I have put together a new web application version of it, and the game betting model is going to be back this week after trying to collect some data from the first couple days of the season because I didn't know how the baseball was going to act because nobody at the MLB actually knows what they're putting together with the baseballs either. So you can find all my work there, and of course you can find Theory DFS from me and Jordan. And yeah, you should get that too because all of that stuff is most applicable to baseball, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's applicable to all sports, no matter what sport you play. Theoryofdfs.com. Find me on Twitter at blenderhd, and I'll be back tomorrow. We have a 7-game slate tonight. We'll review it tomorrow. Let's see what happens, and we'll keep on going. I'm here. Every morning, every weekday morning. This week on Wednesday and Thursday, I'll be on Grinders Live. So it won't be a pregame show, but I'll still be here with you in the morning. It'll be a little bit later, but whatever. But that's what I'm normally here, Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern on the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.